Hey guys, Trent here with Sonar Pros. Got the new Livescope LVS44. We're gonna knock out the install on this nitro bass boat, take it to the lake, and show you how awesome the returns are on this new transducer. So here is everything included in the box. We've got the transducer, Y cable, mounting hardware, all different adapters, and the new forward perspective mount. We've got the network cable adapter that converts the BlueNet adapter to Ethernet for non-BlueNet units, a replacement collar, and an Allen head. That is everything that comes in the box with your LVS44. Been getting a lot of questions on how does the new 44 compare to the old 34. So initially, comparing the two, we can see we've got a pretty significant size difference as far as the overall height of the transducer. A lot of that has to do with the processor that's built into these transducers now versus an external box. So you can actually see the comparison right here. Looking at the beams, mounting surfaces, you'll notice there are more teeth on the 44 compared to the 34. Little tighter separation too. Big thing I noticed there is with the teeth having a little bit tighter separation, a little bit more minute changes for adjustments on the transducer. On both transducers, the cable does come out the top. You can see here on the 44, another drastic change is we got status indication lights if the transducer is operating and communicating. And then the big thing with this transducer that is different than the 34 is it does have a water contact sensor. You can see both of them. We do have our temperature sensors kind of in a similar position. But really the big thing is from a width perspective, they're not that drastic of a difference. Actually borderline the same width. But the big thing is the overall height. It is a larger transducer overall height. Beams, if I kind of marry the beams up, about the same overall length. So really excited to get this install knocked out, but I've been getting a ton of questions on, hey, physically, what are the differences? And here we go, got them all side by side. Really looking forward to getting this transducer on the water. All right, the first step in installing the mount is we gotta attach our adapter disc to the forward and perspective mount. Now this does have double-sided tape on the back side. Really simple, we'll remove this. Your down position is at an upward. You can see it says D right there, is at an upward position. And we will simply line it up where the indexing teeth, like that, will line up. You can see it is inserted in the indexing teeth, and then we're gonna press it on. So you can see now we've got the teeth lined up on the mount. Got D for down, F for forward, and then there's a position on the back for perspective when it rotates. Next, we're going to install the mount on the shaft of the trolling motor. The rubber washer goes on the back side of the mount where it will see around your trolling motor like so, and then the front side of the mount will mate up, and then simply install the bolts. Typically, we recommend doing all four by hand at first, like Walker is doing here right now, just to kind of get everything lined up and pre-threaded. Now we're going to take the general rule of thumb here as far as transducer height, about a fist off the collar of the trolling motor. You'll see we are about a fist above that. Could go a little lower. We may adjust it once we get the transducer on here, but we're going to start at this position first. We're now starting to tighten up all of the mounting bolts. Now we're not going to go full torque on these. We're actually going to leave it a little, not loose, but snug, so we can adjust the height of this if we need to. So definitely recommend that you do not fully tighten those, so you do have some adjustability. All right, next we've actually got the mounting bolt. Go ahead and pre-insert that the transducer. and then you're simply going to thread it on to the mount. This is where you'll notice on the indexing of the transducer, right there, you've got the mark on the transducer where it lines up on the mount. So right now we're in the down position. Go ahead, Walker, and loosen that and move it back to forward. And now we are in the forward position. You can see we're about a fist height off the collar. We may lower this just because, again, you do want this transducer obviously to stay in the water as much as possible with the water contact sensor. All right, the next step on this is the shaft here. You'll see a really important thing to look out for is right now, since we just loosely have this on here, the transducer is not in line with the foot. So a really important thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and clock this. You can see I'm moving the transducer. And now I'm gonna almost line it up like a sight on a rifle with the barrel of the foot. So you can see here, we're getting her lined up. That looks nice and lined up. I always like to look over top, and then I'll kind of look at it in line as well. All right, so next step is we are gonna route the cabling up the shaft of the trolling motor. What we like to use is flex routes. You can use electrical tape or any sort of non-zip tie secure method. You really want to avoid putting zip ties on the transducer cable. In this case, we use flex routes where the zip tie goes under the cable and the rubber part is what tensions onto the shaft. So really slick tool. They're also adjustable, makes things really simple. So what we like to do is we'll normally kind of have what we call our service loop here. And this is what allows that transducer to rotate from forward to perspective to down. So do a service loop, and then you'll just kind of space them going up from there. And we're just simply going to work up the flex routes all the way to about this part of the trolling motor. You always want to make sure to leave space so that if you want to raise your trolling motor, there's enough space on the shaft to actually raise and lower your trolling motor. Right now we do have this Ultrex at the lowest position. All right, guys, we've lowered the mount just a little bit more just because it is a bigger transducer. I wanted to get it lower on the shaft for more water contact. Working up the shaft, you can see we've got our evenly spaced flex routes. Now this is where things change a little bit depending on your boat. We like to add what we call our cable guard. This is part of our cable management kit here at Sonar Pros. We add this to the top of the Ultrexes, whether they're Quests or regular Ultrexes, and then that's gonna let us keep that cable center on the shaft, so when we go to route the cable, it will stay there in the center. So we're gonna go working on getting the rest of these wires nice and tidy down the trolling motor, and then we will meet you guys back up here at the bow to get ready to connect the power to the Sonar Pros harness here at the bow. So right here, guys, we've got the end of our wiring harness. This is our module extension. We're gonna go ahead and make connection to the Garmin Y cable power cord. We use full waterproof connection system, so we're going to use reducing butt connectors with a heat shrink tube over it. Once we make that connection, we'll show it to you guys and move on to the next step. All right, we've got our wiring here. We've made connection to the Garmin power plug on the Y cable. We like to use either a soldered connection or in this situation, a nice reducing heat shrink butt connector. This is strongly recommended. And then we've also got this additional heat shrink tube that we're about to slide over to seal this all in. Really important you guys make a good connection on this, not only for reliability, but consistent power to the device. So got our nice heat shrink connections here, and then we got one more heat shrink to go over the top and seal it all in. All right, we've got the connection fully sealed in. Now it's time to start coiling cables and getting the Y cable coiled up inside the bow to make connection to the transducer plug. What we went ahead and did is the transducer plug is running into the back area of the bracket. And now we will essentially make a nice coil for the Y cable to connect to the transducer, so there's not a lot of excess cable in the bow. All right, here's probably one of the most important things to do with an install, whether it's a transducer cable, power cord, network cable, is coiling your excess cable. Now it's really important. You can see here we did use zip ties, but these are not tight. You can still move the zip tie. It's just a retention method compared to not using zip ties there, simply because it'll put pressure on the cable. So really important. This is our excess transducer cable. We have a nice serviceable coil. It's not pinched in the middle. It is a nice uniform circle that kind of goes with the natural bend of the cable. Really important. That's going to get pushed into the bow behind our bow mount plate. Same thing with our excess power cable. You can see we got our excess power cable on the Y, and we've got the Y accessible for the transducer to plug in. So these two pieces are going to connect. And then we've got our network cable that comes off the Y. Walker, real quick, you want to go ahead and connect those two together? So real simple. These two have an index point, and then they thread together like so, and then tighten the collar down. Now, one thing that we're really going to recommend on this is really simple, easy insurance policy is any threaded connections like this that are going to be behind a bow plate, just wrap them in some electrical tape. All this is going to do is ensure that under vibration, that threaded collar is not going to separate and we're not going to lose any sort of data connection on that transducer. Again, this is if it is inaccessible behind the bow panel. We do this with network cables, Ethernet cables, adapter cables, you name it. This is probably one of the best insurance policies you can do. So real simple, doesn't have to be anything overly fancy. Again, it's behind the bow panel, but it is a good insurance policy. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and get all these coils tucked into the bow and then pull our network cable through our bow panel so it'll make connection to the graph. So we're gonna go ahead and get that knocked out, and then we're gonna work on buttoning up our bow panel. Again, this varies per boat. In this situation, we've got a dual bow mount on the front of this Nitro, so we're gonna get that assembled with the blue net cable coming through the center of the wire pass-throughs on this mount. We've got our bow reassembled. You can see here now we have the blue net cable from the Y cable for the LVS44. We're going to go ahead and attach the Ethernet adapter to it. And again, like we did on the inside, we're actually going to use our E-tape. Once this connection is made, we're going to wrap it in a little E-tape, and then that connection will actually go back into the bow. There are some installs where this will be external instead of electrical tape. If it's going to be external, I would recommend heat shrink. So Walker, go ahead and make that connection. Thread the collar all the way tight. And then again, because the cable doesn't need to be very long for this install because of the graft position on this brand of mount, we're just going to use E-tape because it's easily serviceable. Again, this is just an insurance policy to make sure that collar does not unthread. Again, for you guys where the Ethernet would be, adapter would be external of the boat, I would recommend heat shrink over electrical tape. And then go ahead, we're gonna push that adapter into the bow. Real simple. The reason we do this is in the event you need to access that adapter, the reason we're just simply pushing it in is if you're on the water and you had a problem with this adapter, you could simply pull on it and have access to it. We don't like to have it fully secured in the bow where you can't get to it. So again, this adapter is really simple. She's pushed in. Now, if there was a problem with this adapter, we can get to it easily. So now we're going to go ahead and install the graphs. One really important thing, if you haven't done the update yet, do not connect this cable to your graph till the update is done. We're about to show that process, so we're going to go ahead and get these graphs reinstalled and get prepped for the update. All right, if you guys are backdated prior to the newest software, I do recommend still don't plug in this Livescope cable until the update is complete. So we've got the update on an SD card, and we're gonna go ahead and let this system go ahead and update the software. It does take a little bit of time, especially if you're on a big network. So we're gonna go ahead and let this update complete, and then when the update's complete, we will connect the LVS44 to the head unit for the first time. All right, update is complete. We're gonna go ahead and connect in our network cable here. On the transducer now, we are getting status indication lights booting up. Our new Livescope has popped up. This boat originally had a 34, so if you guys are upgrading from a 34 to the 44, you'll notice old Livescope. See how it says GLS 10 not found? And now we've got the new Livescope, and she is up and running. You can see our water contact sensor is working. It says water not detected. So we're gonna go take this out to the lake and get her tuned up. All right, just starting to tweak with the settings. One initial thing I do notice is definitely it seems like the gain settings run a lot lower than LVS44. If I start going up around the gain range I would normally run in, I'm getting a lot more feedback on the screen. So definitely something I'm initially noticing is a little bit lower gain settings. The target separation, I've seen there's a bait ball over here, looks really good. Getting some great detail on that bait ball. You can actually see some fish sitting underneath it. Boat's moving, trying to stay on track with them. I'm gonna run over here to a brush pile and see what we can find. All right, we've got a brush pile marked up here. Got one fish coming up to us, and you can see, you can clearly make out that brush pile. Still learning the settings. Definitely runs a lower gain than the LVS44 that I'm noticing. When we run our gain a little higher, like we would a 34, screen definitely gets a ton of feedback. So definitely learning lower gain, it seems like. Can actually see we've got some fish up here at the surface. Got some fish sitting right there on the edge of the brush pile. Looking good so far. But as far as settings right now, guys, I'm running color gain about 69%. I've got our main gain down in percentage around the 60% mark, it seems like. And all that looks good.